ZZ Top's music stands alone in classic rock, but the music isn't the only unique thing about this band. There are plenty of interesting details about ZZ Top you probably don't know. Here's the untold truth of the notorious bearded bandmates. Let's be honest, when you think of ZZ Top, the first thing that comes to mind is the mid-torso length beards these guys have been rocking since before many of us were born. Whether you can name a ZZ Top song or not, you still know the beards. Could you imagine ever seeing vocalist and guitarist Billy Gibbons or bassist Dusty Hill with a clean-shaven face or even a manageable scruff? Well, there was a time when that fresh-faced style was still their preferred look. Contrary to what you may expect, the band spent their first decade together without their iconic facial hair. Gibbons and Hill had a tendency to wear comparatively short beards. But one day, they both arrived at a meeting after having been on an extended vacation. Hill and Gibbons had forgotten to shave, and their beards had become pretty impressive. This was an entirely uncoordinated move, one that reportedly caused each of them not to recognize the other at first glance. Once the two bandmates realized they'd both independently grown some seriously distinctive facial hair, the beards were there to stay. It should be noted that the only member of the band who didn't rock a massive beard after that day was the one person whose name should have all but demanded it, drummer Frank Beard. Once ZZ Top's beards were hanging to their chests, they weren't going anywhere no matter what. Not only have they stayed, but Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill seem to have thrown their razors away for good. They outright refuse to cut their facial hair, and they've gotten plenty of high-dollar offers to do so. As Gibbons explained in an interview with Brave Words, razor manufacturer Gillette had once called the duo with a massive proposition. The company wanted Gibbons and Hill to be in one of their commercials. It would have been a big promotion for the company, having a group of international bearded superstars shilling their products. But Gillette isn't about growing one's beard long, it's about shaving it off. They offered the bearded pair $1 million to scrape off the scruff in front of a camera, but these chest-long beards were worth more than money to the band. They refused.
It's just money. It's made up.
The name ZZ Top seems to hold a bit of a mystery. In an interview Billy Gibbons did with KLRU, they talk about the myths flying around as of 2008. Gibbons' favorites is the rumor that says that they're named after the Zig-Zag and Top brand cigarette rolling papers. Gibbons has set the record straight quite a few times now, beginning in a book he published. The actual story, as Ultimate Classic Rock describes, was actually quite simple. The band was sitting around their old apartment hangout when Gibbons looked up at the posters. ZZ Hill and B.B. King stood out as some of his favorite bands, so he mixed the two together but realized how much ZZ King sounded like B.B. King. To switch things up, and since B.B. King was at the top of the genre, Top became their stand-in for B.B. King. Throughout the band's first 5 albums, they'd been recording, touring, and playing shows non-stop. When the Worldwide Texas Tour began, things got even more stressful. They blew through nearly 100 shows in a year and a half, according to St. Mary's University. The band was getting burned out, and it really didn't help that the band had a road manager who was so good at his job. He was strict when it came to schedules and kept everything moving as it should. But with the high volume of work the guys in ZZ Top were expected to do, they could only take so much. When drummer Frank Beard spoke with the Boston Globe in 1980, he told the publication that they were the type of wild guys who did what they wanted whenever they wanted, but for the past 6 years they'd been herded this way and that by their management. It was taxing, so they stopped recording in 1977 and stopped touring shortly after. They returned in 1979 with the release of their 6th album, Degüello, but they didn't come back the same. When the band returned from their hiatus, the world looked at them differently. They were still the band from Texas, just not the same little old band from Texas that they were often referred to as. They still had their beards, they still had their style, but they also had a new way of conveying their bluesy rock-style music into something more suitable for the soon-to-emerge MTV. They were truly rock stars now. The most recent lineup for ZZ Top includes Billy Gibbons on guitar and vocals, Dusty Hill on bass and vocals, and Frank Beard wailing away on the drums, but this wasn't how it started out. Gibbons was the only original member of the band ZZ Top that grew out of the remnants of his former band Moving Sidewalks. The Sidewalks were dismantled when 2 of the bandmates were drafted into the Army in 1969. The only member left besides Gibbons was drummer Dan Mitchell. The two weren't finished with music, so they got together with a bassist and produced the first single, Salt Lick, with the B-side Miller's Farm for the group that had now become known as ZZ Top. The band quickly added Billy Etheridge and switched out Mitchell for Frank Beard, and within the year they were offered a record contract, but Etheridge split. Beard then conscripted the help of his bassist from a former band, bringing Dusty Hill into the mix. From that point on, the band's lineup was set. ZZ Top maintained the same lineup from 1970 all the way until Dusty Hill's death in 2021. With over 50 years under the trio's belt, ZZ Top has become the longest-running band in the popular music world with a membership that didn't change. By the time the band finished their Worldwide Texas Tour, ZZ Top had a serious claim to rock and roll fame. They were now popular across the country, but the constant work that came with that fame wasn't always ideal, hence their hiatus. During their time away from music, and the short stint from 1977 to 1979 that the band took to rest and relax, bassist Dusty Hill took on a gig that some might see as unexpected. As Hill later asserted, he and the band needed to take a step back, not just from performing and touring, but from the entire rock and roll life in general. They'd seen too many musicians try to take on too much in their early years and burn out for good, and ZZ Top was striving for longevity. So what did Hill do with his time away? He worked at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. An old friend of his had been working there, and the job was just what Hill needed. The lifelong musician explains that he'd been on the road playing music since he was a young teenager and needed to get grounded with a relatively normal job. Frontman and guitarist of ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons, has one of those personalities that is larger than life. He's gritty, filled with rugged Texas charm, well-spoken in a way many might believe doesn't fit his image, and one of the biggest jokers in the history of rock and roll. All of these qualities together make him a perfectly distinctive character, and Fox Broadcasting Company took advantage of that when they cast him in a small role in the hit TV show Bones. Gibbons plays Angela's father on the show, and his character goes unnamed. There's a reason for this. As show creator Hart Hanson told the Chicago Tribune, Gibbons was playing a different version of himself. The whole time you watch him on screen, you have a hard time figuring out if he's meant to be a character or simply Gibbons, and his character was designed that way. Of course, this added sense of mystery has created more questions for fans. Many wondered if Gibbons was actually Angela actor Michaela Conlin's father here in the real world. He's not, but even some of his personal friends thought he was, and in true Gibbons style, he refused to correct them because he thought it was funnier that way.
I don't know what that means.
Well, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't.
Following a grueling recount during the 2000 election between Democrats and former Vice President Al Gore and former Governor of Texas George W. Bush, the Texan native was awarded the victory, becoming the 43rd President of the United States. Bush attained a second big win when he was re-elected in the 2004 presidential race. The presidential ball is usually a black or white tie affair, but Bush elected to have Ted Nugent and none other than ZZ Top headline the affair. Before the thing even kicked off, Nugent told the press that the concert was, quote, gonna be mayhem. Nugent ended up canceling, but ZZ Top showed up. This wasn't their first Bush rodeo. Following Bush's first presidential victory in 2000, according to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, ZZ Top played at the campaign's pre-inauguration party in Washington, D.C. According to Lone Star 92.5, while Bush was still the acting governor of Texas, he declared a state holiday on May 15th, ZZ Top Day. But the holiday has actually been around a lot longer than that. In 1986, as the Sun Sentinel notes, the Texas House of Representatives declared the band to be official Texas heroes in a unanimous decision. They also declared ZZ Top Day for the first time, though back then it was August 27th. The decision put the musicians on a pedestal alongside state heroes such as Davy Crockett, Sam Houston, and Jim Bowie. Of course, these declarations took place while ZZ Top was in town to play 3 shows in Houston, so there's a good chance this was as much a publicity stunt as it was a serious honor. ZZ Top frontman Billy Gibbons is a seriously multi-talented individual. Besides both singing in his low, gravelly voice and shredding like a beast on the guitar, he's also a published writer. This really isn't a surprise if you've ever heard him speak or seen any of the written responses he sent into publications. Gibbons has a way with words. His first and only book, as Forbes describes, seems more like a subtle brag than anything else. Apparently, Gibbons is as knowledgeable about cars as he is about music equipment, both of which are equally portrayed subjects in Billy F. Gibbons' Rock and Roll Gearhead, published in 2005. The book looks at guitar and car designs throughout the 50s and 60s, linking their progression together. The book has 3 sections. Cars and guitars make up 2 of them, and the third is all autobiographical, written in the entertaining and creative voice Gibbons uses while speaking at shows or in interviews. Over the past 20 years or so, ZZ Top bassist Dusty Hill has had at least a couple of serious ailments, and 2 of them seem to coincide with European tours. The first and more serious of them was when the musician was diagnosed with hepatitis C in 2000, causing ZZ Top to postpone their tour. Then in 2011, Hill suffered an acoustic neuroma, a benign tumor that grows in the inner ear and affects hearing. This again led to the cancellation of a European tour. During the afternoon of July 28, 2021, the official ZZ Top Facebook page delivered some heartbreaking news. Dusty Hill, beloved bassist and Southern rock phenom, had passed away in his sleep earlier that morning. The band's message spoke about how much Gibbons and Beard, along with legions of ZZ Top fans, would miss him.